So hello and welcome along to the Champ.ie podcast, as we've less now than 4 weeks to the Cheltenham Festival. I'm delighted to be joined on the podcast by Cricket Ireland's Blair White. That's a lovely, fantastic top you on you, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Barry. Thought I'd make a special effort for the podcast. So popped on the Cricket Ireland jumper.
Well, I'm flaunting the Carlo GA colours, so supporting Willie Mullins and all that gang. Thomas Coyle, welcome back to the podcast.
How are you, lads? As well?
I'm not too bad, lads. Listen, we'll cut straight to the chase. Ascot. We have Gowran Park, of course, this weekend upcoming, and then on to the Boyne Hurdle, return of Tiger Roll as well on Sunday. But as I said, less than 4 weeks to the Cheltenham Festival. We do it every week on the podcast. One ante-post pick, I suppose, at this point in time now. Andrew Blair White, I saw your preview on YouTube for day one and day two. Some great insight there. But if I was to ask you to give one pick now this week on the Champ.ie podcast, what would that be?
I was thinking about it, and I've got two actually, if I could.
Well, I'm going to give two as well, Andrew, so fire away.
Yeah, well, because I had one and then I thought the price might be a bit short, so I decided to go for a bigger price as well. My main one would be Champagne Classic for the National Hunt Chase. He's around 9-2 at the moment. I think he's got the best form in the race, tied in with Discorama and Battle Over Doyle this year, and was tied in with Chris's Dream on chase form last year. He won a grade 1 over hurdles as a novice, beating the likes of Penn Hill, Album Photo, Presenting Percy, all in the same race. And I'm just very concerned that Carefully Selected could well headbutt a fence at some stage in this National Hunt Chase. Yeah. And I think he's the only horse that could potentially beat him. I think Champagne Classic has a lovely way of jumping for the National Hunt Chase, and he'd be the one I'd be siding with in that. And just at a big price, a horse I put up at the end of year podcast, actually, as one to watch for the season, is Gallant John Joe. And I think he could run in the Close Brothers. I know it's not called the Close Brothers anymore, but that's what I'm calling it. He's 20-1. He was second to Mellon over Christmas, then third in the Irish Arkle. Hopefully, if he gets into that race, he'd have a chance. 2.5 miles should see the best out of him.
Fantastic insight, Andrew Blair White. Thomas Coyle, Abacadabras was put up by yourself at 25-1 at the start of the season for the Supreme Novices Hurdle. Now as short as 5-1 in places. What are you going to give us today? I suppose it's your first anti-post pick now in quite a while.
Well, I'm going to stay close to home. A horse that he was very unlucky for us last week in the Dublin Racing Festival. We think if Golden Jewel gets into the county hurdle, 2 mile 1 up the hill, we always thought 2 mile was a bit short from him. He was desperately unlucky in Leopardstown. He was 10th jumping the last, and he's only beaten half a length. We think he might sneak in maybe just at the bottom. He'll probably need to get £10 off the English handicapper. But if the ground is slightly soft and the extra furlong and up the hill, he'll relish it because he's 1 over 2.5. As I said, he was desperately unlucky. Adam kind of fell that way. That he tried to go into the inside and couldn't get a run, and he's come out and he's flown home. But I think if we can get him there in the same kind of form he is, and he gets a clear run, he'll have a lot more behind him than he'll have in front of him. So I don't think there is prices on him yet, because I think the entries are actually this week. So he might be one to hold off, but I can imagine it'll be a very big price. So he might be worth a few bob each way if he gets into the county hurdle.
And Thomas Coyle's been threatening for quite a while. Will you be on the plane if Golden Jewel makes Cheltenham?
Oh, I'd say I'll be on driving duties, yeah. Hopefully be over there, yeah.
What a fantastic Cheltenham it could be. We could all be there yet. Of course, Ronan Groom, Andrew Blair White, Thomas Coyle and Jason Kiley. We all have our tickets booked, provided obviously Golden Jewel gets there. I'm going to add 2 to the team, the Antepost team this week. Lads, I think Rouge Viv is an absolute cracking bet for the Arkle. At this point in time, I think with BetXS he's 16-1. I think there is 20s out there. Winner obviously the Kingmaker last weekend. Very solid jumper. I thought he did step forward from his run, from his second run of the season. Jumping very solid. I think the front two in the market are possibly weak. Notebook and Cashback. I'm not entirely convinced about either of those. Rouge Viv did a good time. He is progressive, jumps very well. There is an argument, I suppose, that maybe his form is better on flatter tracks, but he ticks all the boxes apart from that, going into an Arkle chase. And another one I want on the team, lads, and I know we spoke about Santini, I put up at the start of the year. I became a fan of Lost in Translation. But you might slate me, and we'll go into it in further detail maybe closer to the time, but Clan des Obo represents for me the best value in the Gold Cup. I think Nichols, I suppose, has campaigned him that the Gold Cup will be his big target this year. He's put him away since the King George, and I think at the moment, at the prices, he represents very good value at 9-1 in that Gold Cup. And I saw a picture on Twitter of him looking very, very nice in his box early on in the week, and as I say, I think he is the value there. Coming on to this weekend, lads, where we're better to start, I suppose, than Cyrname, of course, who ran in the King George. Corson Dister, Andrew Blair White, I suppose. This was probably always going to be nearly after, I suppose, well, it would be his target after the King George, but this looks the race that was nearly most suited to him all year at Ascot. Course and distance. The race could cut up as well with maybe 2 or 3, even 3 runners.
Yeah, exactly. I think ever since he won the race last year by 17 lengths to waiting patiently, and you look at the runners this year, you know, the race was better last year. Waiting patiently is a good horse. Politolog is better than the horses he's running against here. I see some people are quite sweet on Riders on the Storm for the Ryanair. I couldn't have him at all. Last year, when push came to shove, he always let down on his jumping. At Cheltenham, he jumped poorly. And at Punchestown, he jumped poorly one day as well. So I just can't have him to turn over Cyrname here. This is his ideal conditions. He turned over Altior over this. I don't think it was quite course and distance, but pretty much a furlong shorter. One I would be I wouldn't be backing him or anything like that, but I'd be interested to see how Traffic Fluid runs. Gary Moore seems quite sweet on this horse for the Grand National. So it'll be interesting to see. Maybe this will probably be a bit of a pipe opener run. He'll come maybe 3rd or 4th. And it'd be interesting to see, though, if he did run well. Obviously, the national weights are out. He could have a live chance in that. His form from last year was pretty good.
You've mentioned him for this race. I think he might run actually in the 225 at Ascot. We'll discuss that a little later. Thomas, I'll tell you what, we'll come on to that race, the 225 at Ascot, which is the Keltbray Swinley Chase, a limited handicap listed. The man Doyle, I suppose, comes in here for Sean Curran, Lamburn trainer. Actually, comes in here looking for a 4-timer. And do you have any thoughts, I suppose, in this big competitive handicap?
Yeah, I just picked out one, the Harry Fry horse. He actually has him in the Grade 2 earlier in that race. And I think this would be a better race for him. He only has 10 stone 5. He won impressively the last day in Exeter.
Colours to the mass. Who are we going with?
Mr. Malarkey.
Mr. Malarkey. Traffic Fluid will run. I think he's a cracking each way bet. I suppose down 13 pounds in the weights and course and distance.
I don't think he'll run in that, Barry, though, because he's declared for the Ascot. He's actually.
I could be all wrong.
Yeah, he's crossed off in the betting here for me. So he is. So I don't think he's running this.
Got it completely wrong, lads. Let's come on to these. I have no opinion apart from that. The Sodexo Reynoldstown Novice Chase at 150. Competitive action, lads. Pim. I suppose he looks kind of well in at the weights here. A solid jumper also.
Yeah, he's a good horse. He's been improving quite a lot this year. He was, I suppose, a bit frustrating over hurdles, but he seems to have got his act together over fences. That being said, I'd be taking him on here. I'd also be taking on Sam Brown. I think a lot of people are kind of getting a bit jumpy about Sam Brown. In my eyes, now I know I talk up Windsor Avenue every week on this podcast, but Windsor Avenue jumped terribly at Haydock and was still upside to him at 2 out, which isn't a brilliant sign, to be honest. I think that race just fell apart. And I'd be taking a chance here on Copperhead for Colin Tizard. Won the race last year with Mr. Malarkey. He's 11-4 here. his Wincanton form when he beat Finger on the Switch. Is that Mulholland horse that Millie Woonacott got on very well with. Has worked out very well. And I was a bit down in the dumps over Christmas. I was tipping quite a lot of losers at Leopardstown. And I backed this.
You're back in form now, Andrew Blair White.
Yeah, well, I backed this guy at Newbury and watched him on the telly when I was at Leopardstown, and he scooted clear over Christmas. And I'm a loyal man to horses that have done me well, so I'll be sticking with Copperhead for this one.
You're like a good Willie Mullins horse. You're coming ripe for spring, Andrew Blair White. Thomas Coyle, thoughts on the Reynoldstown?
Yeah, I wouldn't have Pim or Sam Brown either, but one for me is the Kim Bailey horse. 2 for gold. I like this horse.
Now, Tom, he's very interesting for the National Hunt Chase, I thought. You could see something like a week beforehand now on the preview circuit. Jamie Codd gets the nod for need for gold. I think he's a very nice horse. This.
Yeah. Look, he won 2 bumpers and he's gone on. He won a couple of hurdles, and the last day, like, he's beaten a good yardstick. The 145 rated Mick Shannon's horse, the Hold the Note. Like, so he's going to be a 145 to 150 horse on the back of that. As Andrew was saying, like Pim was no great. Like, he was well down in a Martin Pipe hurdle last year. I think he was 12th, 13th. Sam Brown, yeah, I think Windsor Avenue might have just hit a bit of a spot now where he's not going. I wouldn't read too much into that race. Like, Windsor Brown he wasn't too far behind him when he parted the last time. So just when you go through them, like Copperhead, he won off 116 over hurdles. I know he went up to 120 something, but that's not their handicaps. That's not high enough to be going for a race like this in my mind. So I can see Captain Drake, I hope, runs in the handicap. So this could break up, and I think like Kim Bailey does very good with his chasers as well. So I think he's very interesting at 6 to 1.
I could be basically all wrong with which horses are going to run this weekend. Obviously, we don't know, but I'd be surprised if he ran in this race. I just think Ascot mightn't be his track. Pim obviously has course and distance. I think he jumps well, and I think it'll be a good horse maybe to get by him at Ascot. I'd worry about Sam Brown. I think all his form is on heavy ground. He kind of looked out of it, but for staying on last time out. Copperhead, I agree with you, Andrew. I think his jumping is obviously good, comes from a good yard. They obviously do well with their staying chasers, and he looks progressive, only a 6-year-old. And the thing about him is, of course, he's on. We don't know whether he stays 3 miles, so it is a step into the unknown for him. But if not trying to be boring here, but I probably would go with him. I think he'd be hard to beat in this. The Grand National Trial, of course, lads, at 3:15. The weights were obviously out this week. Anything catch your eye?
I thought the Tiger Roll weight, just to put that out there, I think he got a fair mark, to be honest. 170 for 2-time Grand National winner. I can't see how they're complaining about it. Present company off 10 stone 7 could be very interesting here. He loves jumping these national fences. He was unlucky last year. He knuckled over at the 4th last. He would have been placed again, having come second the previous year. I wouldn't read into his form lines. He usually runs very poorly all year and then runs well in the national. So his kind of him looking out of form doesn't really worry me. And he's 33 to 1, 10 stone 7. I think that's not the worst each way bet.
Thomas Coyle, anything in the Collie yard there now that you're not telling us about?
Not for a national, anyway. No, just one in this. He's an old stager as well. One for Arthur. He got a funny kind of ride in the Beecher. He was kind of a long way out of it, and he ran on into 5th. An extra half a mile here. He's dropped a pound. He wasn't beaten far in the end. He's dropped another pound. He'll be staying on like 10-12 on his back. Isn't a bad weight. Yeah, I liked Elegant Escape as well. Robbie Power going over to take the ride. Yeah, it's not a great race. It wouldn't take a lot of beating. It just takes one of these old horses to spark again, and you could imagine they could easily pick it up. But I'd take a chance with one for Arthur, because maybe he just got outpaced a little bit. He did make a mistake, but he was at the back for a long time, and he did run through to finish 5th. So I'll take one more chance with him for a prep for another good run in a Grand National.
Interesting. What I liked, lads, last year for the Scottish Grand National, won last time out, and he's gone up £11 now. Is Vintage Clouds, and of course back here over course and distance, the ground looks to be heavy as well. Andrew, I thought he might take a bit of pegging here, and I don't think £11, especially on a track like Haydock, might be as big a deal now. I think he'll hit the frame.
Yeah, I think so too. I thought he's very good around Haydock. He's got a bit of Bristol Demai about him, to be honest. He does seem to enjoy the track very much. And I'd be actually siding with a horse that ran behind him in that race, Geronimo. I'd take another chance on him at a pretty big price for Sandy Thompson. He was staying on at the back of the last, over 3 mile 1 last time out, to finish 3rd. He didn't quite get into as good a jumping rhythm as he can, and 3 mile 4. Be interesting to see how he copes with it, but 11, 12 to 1 seems a big price.
Named after half the lads playing for Blackhall Gales. Sorry, Tom, Geronimo. Yes, lads, let's move on now to the Red Mills chase. Thomas Coyle, why are you not feeding your horses Red Mills? That's the big question I want to know.
I'm a geez, I was going to say bluegrass there. I'm a game man. Yeah, no, look, they're all around the same. It's you try and tinker a bit with everything, but look, Gain seems to be working.
You're trying to be politically correct now. You need to get in that cool and cook cubes, lads. The Red Mills chase 2:54 is a strange time. We've seen a couple of those strange times over the last couple of weeks. Anyway, Chris's Dream was very impressive in the Tri-Town. Looks like, I suppose, was down to run in Andrew Blair White. Potential clash with Real Steel.
Yeah, it would be very interesting. On the face of it, it looks like 2 mile 4 for Chris's Dream could well be a bit sharp. And I know Ronan's not here for his Real Steel gambit, but I do think going right-handed Real Steel is a very good horse. And if he does run in this race, he could take an awful lot of beating. I think he's the type of horse that could well run very well in a Punchestown Gold Cup. I doubt they'll end up running them at Cheltenham, to be honest. I think they've pretty much signed themselves off to that. And I would fancy him over this trip to get the better of Chris's Dream. I've always had it in the back of my mind with Chris's Dream that he's just not quite a grade 2/grade 1 horse. He failed both over hurdles and as a novice chaser when kind of raised to that class. And I'd certainly be willing... I'd want to see it first before I could trust him to do it at that level.
Fair enough. Thomas Coyle, you're all flamers in here, hardline.
Yeah, look, he's not doing it this year. No, it'd be hard to pose Real Steel on that run in Thurles the last day. Chris's Dream obviously is coming in off the handicap run, but he's still, even on official ratings, he's £4 to find with him. Just one, he's clutching at straws maybe a little bit, but one that might run well and might go on is Death Duty. He was off the track a long time. I know he was beaten a long way in the hurdle that Benny DeJew won in Gowran the last day. But look, it was his first run back for a long time. He was always going to be a big kind of chaser. Now, I doubt he mightn't even run in this race, but he's one horse that maybe he always looked like he might be a good chaser when he got going. So he might be one to keep an eye on. If he doesn't turn up here, maybe where he does turn up, just to keep an eye on him for future references.
Fair enough, lads. Moving on to the second Red Mills name race on the day. The Rasso Andrew Blair White seems to be entered up everywhere, but the one horse I wanted to ask you about is the horse that they're all talking about that could be potentially thrown into the champion hurdle. Back over hurdles here, Silius Emery. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's hard to know with him. He's looked a pretty good chaser. If anything, though, his jumping is a bit sticky, and that was found out last time when kind of crumbling at the back of the first at Leopardstown. And I suspect they're looking at the champion chase and going, geez, there's no hope he's getting past the three at the top of the market here. Like, he's not.
Well, he's not getting past Sheck and Poursois anyway.
No, well, certainly not. Like, and maybe they've just seen it as a chance. It's a win-win for them, because if he goes on and wins well, you could potentially run him in the champion hurdle. If he wins kind of poorly or he comes second or something like that, you could say it was a prep run and you put him back in the champion chase. Like, because he does need a run of some description before going to Cheltenham. I'd take a chance on him here that he is good enough. Like, back in the year where he was open hurdling, he went very close behind Mick Jazz in the Ryanair hurdle at Christmas time. Mick Jazz actually ended up going on to finish third in the champion hurdle that year, which was actually a better year even though than this year. And Darasso just over hurdles last time at Haydock was very disappointing. Didn't look like he fancied it at all, to be honest. So I'd be swerving him, and the race doesn't have that much depth to it. So I'd give a chance to Silas Emery here. And if he does run well, he'd be worth a chance in the champion hurdle, considering how weak it is.
Yeah, actually, just you think a chance in the champion hurdle? I thought, I mean, he's 8-1 now. He was introduced to the market 8-1 non-runner, no bet. Jeez, I thought it was on the skimpy side. I mean, what was his best form? Probably over hurdles. Well, definitely as a novice was of course beating Mellon at Punchestown. That was, I suppose, after maybe a long hard season for Mellon. Well, he had a hard race at Cheltenham, so. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm warming to him for a champion hurdle. Thomas Coyle, one who's entered in here. I'm not sure if he goes, but Cedarwood Road, of course, Dundalk trainer Gerard O'Loughlin. He was one, of course, that was well punted over Christmas.
Yeah, and he looks a really nice horse. He couldn't have been more impressive in Leopardstown at Christmas. Gerard, young trainer, up and coming trainer. Had another winner in Thurles last week. The horse that they bought out of Gavin's, I think it was Machuca. One beginner's chase, I think. So horses are in good form. Look, he's very unexposed. He's probably thrown a little bit in the deep end here. Kind of against horses like Silas Emery that weren't rated 153 or 155. They know their way around. It's only his. I think he had one run the bumper, and he's had two runs over hurdles. So, look, he is in at the deep end. He was in the novice hurdle in Punchestown that's got called off twice. So, I suppose they're just eager maybe to get a run into him and see what's happening. Punchestown is on again next Tuesday, so I don't know, has he got an entry in that novice hurdle again? But yeah, no, he'd be an interesting horse going forward. But I think Silas Emery, I think he'd be hard betting this, to be honest. Like, there's a few horses with a lot of question marks on them. So I think he'd be hard betting this.
And just, Tom, on that champion hurdle market, I have to ask you, at the moment, is there anything, I suppose, tickling your fancy in there?
I'm going to, it's a bit madness, and I think I said it the last time I was on, but I'm actually going to stick with Pentland Hills. I just thought the last day he travelled so well, he didn't see it out. I don't know what Nico was doing at the second last, being in behind, and he crashed through it. I think that was the beating of the race for him. But I think if he gets quick ground, he might be worth siding with. But it's still a maze, that champion hurdle, lads. It wouldn't be a strong opinion. It's just because you've asked me for one now I've said that.
Trying to catch you off the hook. Anyway, we'll get to that in the Cheltenham previews. Moving on to Navan on Sunday, of course, the buy-in hurdle, Tiger Roll. Tiger Roll went in on this last year, was kind of unexpected. I think it was a big price when he won it. Set his season up. Was looking, we don't have Jason Kiley on the podcast now. We'll get the boxing gloves out with Easyland, of course. That's a potential clash. But Andrew Blair White, I actually, if he runs in this race, Especially maybe Tiger maybe might be that little bit vulnerable first time up. It wasn't last year, but I think Kilfanora, who backed up his Nace win last time, 11%. I thought like he's gone up well in the weights now. He's 152, but I quite liked what I saw last two times with him, and I thought he might be interesting for Sunday.
Yeah, he'd have a chance. He's looked very impressive the last two times, and this Boyne Hurdle is always a very tricky race. It doesn't usually go to the horse you think it should go to. I don't think favourites have that great a record in the race. I wouldn't be. It's great to see Tiger roll out. Hopefully, he does take it up, and you'd love to see him run a good race. But I don't think you could be backing him at those prices for a 2 mile 5 hurdle. I was really struggling in this race, to be honest. I thought if he does line up,
I know what you're going to say.
Step down in class for Cololta Vic at 14s. I think just 14s is a big price. Look, he's been getting stuffed in these 3 mile hurdles by Benny the Jew and Apples Jade and everything. But I don't think Ben Hill will run in this race, to be honest. I think Cololta Vic's more likely to run. And perhaps just as it's a poor race, he might get his own way out in front. He is a horse that's talented, but it would be a very, very small opinion that. But 14s is a big price.
Absolutely. Thomas, anything else, I suppose, at Navan on Sunday? Eddie Colley is a couple entered.
Yeah, look, it's a good race. One horse I'm going to pick, and this is going to be a bold shout. Tony Martin has a horse in the 3 mile chase, Cleon Man. He was going to run it in the, I don't know, does he run? He was in the national trial last week. He was going to run from £6 out of the handicap. He'd Philip Enright up. It's not like Tony to be running them out of the handicap. I think he's one definitely to side with if he's in Navan, and he could be an outside bet for something like, well, what was the 4 miler, the 3 mile 5 now or 6. I keep an eye if he gets an entry in that. I think there might be just something. They're lucky colours. They use shields. They have pubs and that in New York, and that they used to own Beneficent. He won in the Cheltenham Festival as well before. So he's an unexposed horse. He hasn't run too many times, but I can tell you, if there's a bit of money for him on Sunday and he wins, I'd be looking at something like that, like the 4 miler in Cheltenham for him.
Justin Thomas Coyle. Best bets of the weekend. Plus the horse you're most looking forward to. We'll start with that, Andrew Blair White.
Well, I'm going to make an equally big statement for this Navan card because I believe the Irish Grand National winner is going to be running in the 10-up novices chase in the form of Captain CJ. I think he'll win on Sunday, and I think he'll win the Irish Grand National. His form this year has been excellent. He's come second to pretty much every big good novice in Ireland. He was second to Manila Indo last time out. He was second to Champagne Classic. He was second to Ronald Pump. He was third to Carefully Selected. It wouldn't bother me at all that he's still a maiden over fences, because those are proper Grade 1 horses. And he's been running over 2.5, and he's always struck me like a horse that needs further. And this 3 mile on heavy will be a nice little setup. He could well win this, and then I'll be all over him for the Irish National. I'd say that.
Thomas Coyle.
Yeah, as I said, my best bet would be Cleon Man in the 3 mile if he runs, and looking forward to Saturday. We have Diali out in the maiden hurdle in Gowran Park. He ran well. He ran well for his first time out in Nace. He was beaten 12 lengths. The form of that bumper, I'd say, is very rock solid, as the third has gone on to win. The fourth was second, and the sixth was third in another 4-year-old bumper that was in Nace last weekend. We weren't beaten that far. Probably ground was against us. It looks competitive, but he's working very well. He's schooled well. Chris Timmins will ride, so I'll be looking for another good run from him in a first-time hurdle. He will gain experience and improve for it, but he seems in good fettle. So if he can run to his bumper form of that day, he won't be far away. I'd say you can look at that bumper. That's going to be a very good bumper. The horse that was second ran the Grade 2 bumper in Leopardstown as well, finished 5th. Shakespeare's Poem or something it was called.
Shakespeare's Road, is it?
Yeah, Porrick Roach's horse. So, like, anything that's come out of it since has been placed or is running the Grade 2. So, yeah, he was right bang there till a furlong and a half, and he just didn't quicken on the good ground, but he stayed galloping. So he's a nice horse to go forward with. So we're looking forward to running him on Saturday.
Thomas Coyle, I wasn't sure if he ran. Sorry, we didn't give it a mention, but the alley, yes, absolutely, down in Meath, turned into the straight swinging. Let's hope he can do well for you on Saturday. Lads, I suppose, Andrew, actually must come to you before I divulge all. Sporting John, the big breakaway, very interesting novices hurdle at Ascot. We didn't mention it on Saturday. Of the ones in here, Master Debonair, Sporting John, the big breakaway, fullback Glyn, Kid Commando. I suppose best of these maybe going forward. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's very hard to know. It's a very good race, even if half of these turn up. I would say going forward in the long run, the big breakaway will be the best horse. I think he could be a cracking 3 mile chaser in time. I'd say this year it might all happen a bit too early for him. So it wouldn't surprise me if he got beat if he ran on Saturday, and certainly wouldn't surprise me if he got beat at Cheltenham. Perhaps the one for this year is Master Debonair. I'm not a massive fan of him, but I just think the others are more long-term prospects, and he's certainly tuned up this year. So maybe Master Debonair in that race on Saturday.
Fair enough. Listen, I think at the weekend, best bets, Vintage Clouds tick so many boxes. I think the hike in the weights won't break his back, and at 3:15 at Haydock in the Grand National, he will go very close. And just on that race, Andrew, looking forward very much to Sporting John. I think he was very impressive. His form is working out fantastic. It is a step up in trip, which I think will suit. Was a winner of a point-to-point, of course, at Burris House in County Carlow. But yeah, Sporting John, I think very interesting horse in that race. And also Fusel Raffles, can't wait to see him run if he does go to the Kingwell at Wincanton, which we didn't discuss. But I think if he was to win there, he will shorten dramatically in price for the champion hurdling with what is a weak year. I suppose, lads, that wraps it up for the Champ.ie preview for this weekend. And stay tuned, because there could be some news on a Cheltenham preview night to follow. And lads, listen, we'll be in touch. Very best of luck. And of course, Andrew Blair White, you are doing well in this 8 points to play now for Saturday. And I actually have to say this, as a team, lads, plus 74 points for the year. And of course, a large part of that would be down to Colin Finlay, yourself, Andrew Blair White. Thomas, we've a lot of work to do, but as a team, we're winning.
I'm a marathon, not a sprinter, lad. It's a long time.
There's always entry. Best of luck, lads. Cheerio.
Good luck.
All right.
See you. Bye-bye.